All right, beautiful people. Happy Thursday. Happy Thursday, everybody. Oh, shoot. Hold on. I pulled it out and still forgot to bring it here. Hold on. Get my book. All right, beautiful people. Okay. All right, y'all. It is Thursday. Tomorrow is Sabbath. This is the last Sabbath of this month, y'all. Blessings. That's wobble. I was going to watch the YouTube at first. All right, y'all. A happy Thursday. It is March 11, 2021, day 99 of year 3 of reading through the books of the law and the prophets and of the 3-year consecutive day count, day 768. We are reading Judges 4, 5, and 6 today, and then we'll pick up over in the LOJ, the Legends of the Jews. Okay, greetings, good morning, Zena, Tiffany, Uncle Nathaniel, Trina, Lavon, Shayla. Let me say about over there. Lynn Brown, my mama, and somebody else here on YouTube. Okay, y'all. So let's go ahead and get started with the Shema. Hear, therefore, O Israel, and observe to do it, that it may be well with you, and that you may increase mightily, as Yahuwah, the God of our fathers, has promised to us, in the land that flows with milk and honey. Hear, O Israel, Yahuwah, our God, He is one God, and you shall love Yahuwah, your God, with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. And these words which I command you this day shall be in your heart, and you shall teach them diligently unto your children, and you shall talk of them when you sit in your house, and when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise up. And you shall bind them for a sign upon your hand, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes. And you shall write them upon the posts of your house and on your gates. And Yahuwah commanded us to do all these statutes, to fear Yahuwah our God for our good always, that He might preserve us alive as it is this day. And it shall be our righteousness if we observe to do all these commandments before Yahuwah our God, as He has commanded us. Yanata. Good morning, Betwabu, brother. Good. Betwabu. Okay, y'all. So let's go ahead and over here. Judges chapter 4. We are starting with Deborah, one of the first female judges that are listed here. Matter of fact, I think in the canonized Bible, she's the only female judge that's mentioned. But we know that there's more to the story and more that women did in our nation. All right. After Ehud's death, the Israelites again did evil in Yahuwah's sight. So Yahuwah turned them over to King Jabin of Hazor, a Canaanite king. The commander of his army was Sisera, who lived in Harosheth Hagoyim. Sisera, who had 900 iron chariots, ruthlessly oppressed the Israelites for 20 years. Then the people of Israel cried out to Yahuwah for help. Deborah, the wife of Lapidoth, was a prophet who was judging Israel at the time. She would sit under the palm of Deborah between Ramah and Bethel in the hill country of Ephraim, and the Israelites would go to her for judgment. One day she sent for Barak, son of Abinoam, who lived in Kadesh in the land of Naphtali. She said to him, "This is what Yahuwah, the God of Israel, commands you. Call out 10,000 warriors from the tribes of Naphtali and Zebulun at Mount Tabor, and I will call out Sisera, commander of Jabin's army, along with his chariots and warriors, to the Kishon River. There I will give you victory over him." Barak told her, "I will go, but only if you go with me." "Very well," she replied. "I will go with you, but you will receive no honor in this venture, for Yahuwah's victory over Sisera will be at the hands of a woman." So Deborah went with Barak to Kadesh. At Kadesh, Barak called together the tribes of Zebulun and Naphtali, and 10,000 warriors went up with him. Deborah also went with him. Now Heber, the Kenite, a descendant of Moses' brother-in-law Hobab, had moved away from the other members of his tribe and pitched his tent by the oak of Zananim near Kadesh. When Sisera was told that Barak, son of Abinoam, had gone up to Mount Tabor, he called for all 900 of his iron chariots and all of his warriors, and they marched from Harosheth Hagoyim to the Kishon River. Then Deborah said to Barak, "Get ready. This is the day Yahuwah will give you victory over Sisera, for Yahuwah is marching ahead of you." So Barak led his 10,000 warriors down the slopes of Mount Tabor into battle. When Barak attacked, Yahuwah threw Sisera and all his chariots and warriors into a panic. Sisera leaped down from his chariot and escaped on foot. Then Barak chased the chariots and the enemy army all the way to Harosheth Hagoyim, killing all of Sisera's warriors. Not a single one was left alive. Meanwhile, Sisera ran to the tent of Jael, the wife of Heber the Kenite, because Heber's family was on friendly terms with King Jabin of Hazor. Jael went out to meet Sisera and said to him, "Come into my tent, sir, come in. Don't be afraid." So he went into her tent and she covered him with a blanket. "Please give me some water," he said. "I am thirsty." So she gave him some milk from a leather bag and covered him again. "Stand at the door of the tent," he told her. "If anybody comes and asks you if there is anyone here, say no." But when Sisera fell asleep from exhaustion, Jael quietly crept up to him with a hammer and a tent peg in her hand. Then she drove the tent peg through his temple and into the ground, and so he died. When Barak came looking for Sisera, Jael went out to meet with him. She said, "Come, I will show you the man you are looking for." So he followed her into the tent and found Sisera lying there dead, with a tent peg through his temple. So on that day, Israel saw Yahuwah defeat Jabin, the Canaanite king, and from that time on, Israel became stronger and stronger against King Jabin until they finally destroyed him. Hence the prophecy by the judge Deborah that this victory will be won by the hands of a woman, which was Jael. On that day, Deborah and Barak, son of Abinoam, sang this song. Israel's leaders took charge, and the people gladly followed. Praise Yahuwah. Listen, you kings. Pay attention, you mighty rulers. For I will sing to Yahuwah. I will make music to Yahuwah, the God of Israel. Yahuwah, when you sent out from Seir and marched across the fields of Edom, the earth trembled, and the cloudy skies poured down rain. The mountains quaked in the presence of Yahuwah, the God of Mount Sinai, in the presence of Yahuwah, the God of Israel. In the days of Shamgar, son of Anath, and in the days of Jael, people avoided the main roads, and travelers stayed on winding paths. And there were few people left in the villages of Israel until Deborah arose as a mother for Israel. When Israel chose new gods, war erupted at the city gates, yet not a shield or spear could be seen among 40,000 warriors in Israel. My heart is with the commanders of Israel, with those who volunteered for war. Praise Yahuwah. Consider this, you who ride on fine donkeys, you who sit on fancy saddle blankets, and you who walk along the road. Listen to the village magicians gathered at the watering holes. They recount the righteous victories of Yahuwah and the victories of his villagers in Israel. Then the people of Yahuwah marched down to the city gates. Wake up, Deborah, wake up, wake up, wake up, and sing a song. Arise, Barak, lead your captives away, son of Abinoam. Down from Tabor marched the few against the nobles. The people of Yahuwah marched down against mighty warriors. They came down from Ephraim, a land that once belonged to the Amalekites. They followed you, Benjamin, with your troops. From Machir, the commanders marched down. From Zebulun came those who carry a commander's staff. The princes of Issachar were with Deborah and Barak. They followed Barak, rushing into the valley. But in the tribe of Reuben, there was great indecision. Why did you sit at home among the sheepfolds to hear the shepherds whistle for their flocks? Yes, in the tribe of Reuben, there was great indecision. Gilead remained east of the Jordan. And why did Dan stay home? Asher sat unmoved at the seashore, remaining in his harbors. But Zebulun risked his life, as did Naphtali on the heights of the battlefield. The kings of Canaan came and fought at Tanakh near Megiddo Springs, and they carried off no silver treasures. The stars fought from heaven. The stars in their orbits fought against Sisera. The Kishon River swept them away. The ancient torrent, the Kishon, march on with courage, my soul. Then the horses' hooves hammered the ground, the galloping of Sisera's mighty deeds. Let the people of Meroz be cursed, said the angel of Yahuwah. Let them be utterly cursed, because they did not come to help Yahuwah against the mighty warriors. Most blessed among women is Jael, the wife of Heber the Kenite. May she be blessed above all women who live in tents. Sisera asked for water, and she gave him milk. In a bowl fit for nobles, she brought him yogurt. Then with her left hand, she reached for a tent peg, and with her right hand for the workman's hammer. She struck Sisera with the hammer, crushing his head. With a shattering blow, she pierced his temples. He sank, he fell, he lay still at her feet, and where he sank, there he died. From the window, Sisera's mother looked out. Through the window, she watched for his return, saying, "Why is his chariot so long in coming? Why don't we hear the sound of chariot wheels?" Her wise women answer, and she repeats these words to herself. They must be dividing the captured plunder with a woman or two for every man. There will be colorful robes for Sisera and colorful embroidered robes for me. Yes, the plunder will include colorful robes embroidered on both sides. Yahuwah, may all your enemies die like Sisera, but may those who love you rise like the sun in all its power. Then there was peace in the land for 40 years. All right, y'all. We'll read Judges chapter 6. I didn't call out Judges chapter 5, but that was Judges chapter 5. And this is the last chapter for today, Judges chapter 6. The Israelites did evil in Yahuwah's sight, so Yahuwah handed them over to the Midianites for 7 years. The Midianites were so cruel that the Israelites made hiding places for themselves in the mountains, caves, and strongholds. Whenever the Israelites planted their crops, marauders from Midian, Amalek, and the people of the east would attack Israel, camping in the land and destroying crops as far away as Gaza. They left the Israelites with nothing to eat, taking all the sheep, goats, cattle, and donkeys. These enemy hordes, coming with their livestock and tents, were as thick as locusts. They arrived on droves of camels, too numerous to count, and they stayed there until the land was stripped bare. So Israel was reduced to starvation by the Midianites. Then the Israelites cried out to Yahuwah for help. When they cried out to Yahuwah because of Midian, Yahuwah sent a prophet to the Israelites. He said, "This is what Yahuwah, the God of Israel, says. I brought you up out of the slavery in Egypt. I rescued you from the Egyptians and from all those who oppressed you. I drove out your enemies and gave you their land. I told you, I am Yahuwah your God. You must not worship the God of the Amorites, in whose land you now live, but you have not listened to me." Then the angel of Yahuwah came and sat beneath the great tree at Ophrah, which belonged to Joash of the clan of Abiezer. Gideon, the son of Joash, was threshing wheat at the bottom of the winepress to hide the grain from the Midianites. The angel of Yahuwah appeared to him and said, "Mighty hero, Yahuwah is with you." "Sir," Gideon replied, "if Yahuwah is with us, why has all this happened to us? And where are all the miracles our ancestors told us about? Didn't they say Yahuwah brought us up out of Egypt? But now Yahuwah has abandoned us and handed us over to the Midianites." Can anybody guess why they were handed over again? Because they were not keeping Yahuwah's commands, all right? Everything was good. Everything was good until they started going sideways. Then they get into some trouble. Yahuwah hands them over completely. And after years of hard bondage from whoever has captured them this time, they began to cry out. Yahuwah sends a prophet. What did he say? Y'all turned away. Okay, he gonna hear you this time again. And he sends another deliverer. And this deliverer this time is Gideon. Then Yahuwah turned to him and said, "Go with the strength you have and rescue Israel from the Midianites. I am sending you." "But Yahuwah," Gideon replied, "how can I rescue Israel? My clan is the weakest in the whole tribe of Manasseh, and I am the least in my entire family." Yahuwah said to him, "I will be with you, and you will destroy the Midianites as if you are fighting against one man. Gideon replied, if you are truly going to help me, show me a sign to prove that it is really Yahuwah speaking to me. Don't go away until I come back and bring my offering to you. He answered, I will stay here until you return. Gideon hurried home. He cooked a young goat, and with a basket of flour, he made some bread without yeast. Then, carrying the meat in a basket and the broth in a pot, he brought them out and presented them to the angel who was under the great tree. Let me tell y'all something. These days are coming back like, now that the captivity, the last captivity is over, we're going to see more supernatural experiences. This was really common to them. They weren't freaked out when an angel popped up on them, right? This was common to them. This was common to Israel, although you should never treat it as a common thing. But this is something that Yahuwah had given to us, right? Okay. The angel of Yahuwah said to him, place the meat and the unleavened bread on this rock and pour the broth over it. And Gideon did as he was told. Then the angel of Yahuwah touched the meat and the bread with the tip of his staff in his hand, and fire flamed up from the rock and consumed all he had brought. And the angel of Yahuwah disappeared. When Gideon realized that it was the angel of Yahuwah, he cried out, "O sovereign Lord, I am doomed. I have seen the angel of Yahuwah face to face." "It is all right," replied Yahuwah. "Do not be afraid. You will not die." And Gideon built an altar to Yahuwah there and named it Yahweh Shalom, or Yahuwah Shalom, which means Yahuwah is peace. The altar remains in Ophrah in the land of the clan of Abiezer to this day. And that night Yahuwah said to Gideon, "Take the second bull from your father's herd, the one that is 7 years old, pull down your father's altar to Baal, and cut down the Asherah pole standing beside it. Then build an altar to Yahuwah your God here on this hilltop sanctuary, laying the stones carefully. Sacrifice the bull as a burnt offering on the altar, using as fuel the wood of the Asherah pole you cut down." So Gideon took 10 of his servants and did as Yahuwah commanded, but he did it at night because he was afraid of the other members of his father's household and the people of the town. Early the next morning, as the people of the town began to stir, someone discovered that the altar of Baal had been broken down and the Asherah pole beside it had been cut down. In their place, a new altar had been built, and on it were the remains of the bull that had been sacrificed. The people said to each other, "Who did this?" And after asking around and making a careful search, they learned that it was Gideon, son of Joash. "Bring out your son," the men of the town demanded Joash. "He must die for destroying the altar of Baal and for cutting down the Asherah pole." But Joash shouted to the mob that confronted him, "Why are you defending Baal? Will you argue his case? Whoever pleads his case will be put to death by morning. If Baal truly is a god, let him defend himself and destroy the one who broke down his altar." From then on, Gideon was called Jerubbaal, which means "let Baal defend himself," because he broke down Baal's altar. Soon afterward, the armies of Midian, Amalek, and the people of the east formed an alliance against Israel and crossed the Jordan, camping in the valley of Jezreel. Then the Spirit of Yahuwah clothed Gideon with power. He blew a ram's horn as a call to arms, and the men of the clan of Abiezer came to him. He also sent messengers throughout Manasseh, Asher, Zebulun, and Naphtali, summoning their warriors, and all of them responded. Then Gideon said to Yahuwah, "If you are truly going to use me to rescue Israel as you promised, prove it to me in this way. I will put a wool fleece on the threshing floor tonight. If the fleece is wet with dew in the morning, but the ground is dry, then I will know that you are going to help me rescue Israel as you promised." And this is just what happened. When Gideon got up early the next morning, he squeezed the fleece and wrung out a whole bowl full of water. Then Gideon said to Yahuwah, "Please don't be angry with me, but let me make one more request. Let me use the fleece for one more test. This time let the fleece remain dry while the ground around it is wet with dew." So that night Yahuwah did as Gideon asked. The fleece was dry in the morning, but the ground was covered with dew. I'd have been like, "Let's go." I done checked and I done double checked. Yahuwah is with us. Let's go. All right, y'all. So let's go ahead and hop on over here to the Legends of the Jews. That was Judges 4, 5, and 6. So we're picking up where we left off yesterday. Alicia, Joy Risings, Joy Risings. Okay, y'all. Okay. All right, page 395. If you got the smaller version, it's volume 4, chapter 2, the section called Campaigns of Kenaz. Okay. After these preparations, Kenaz took the field against the enemy with 300,000 men. The first day he slew 8,000 of the foe, and the second day 5,000. But not all the people were devoted to Kenaz. Some murmured against him, and calumniating him, said, Kenaz stays at home while we expose ourselves on the field. The servants of Kenaz reported these words to him. He ordered the 37 men who had railed against him to be incarcerated, and he swore to kill them. But if Yahuwah would but grant him assistance for the sake of his people. Oh, remember, so when we get to volume 4 in chapter 2, this is actually picking up in Judges, right? Shalom, Joanne, shalom. So we actually, I don't know if we're going to get to Deborah today. Othniel, Boaz, and Ruth. We might. Let me read fast. I'll try not to tell so many stories. Okay. He ordered the 37 men who had railed against him to be incarcerated, and he swore to kill them, if Yahuwah but would grant him assistance for the sake of his people. Thereupon he assembled 300 men of his attendants, supplied them with horses, and bade them be prepared to make a sudden attack during the night, but tell none of the plans he harbored in his mind. The scouts sent ahead to reconnoitre. Hold on, no. That's the word for reconnaissance. But I forget how to pronounce it. The scouts sent ahead to scout out the land reported that the Amorites were too powerful for him to risk an engagement. Kenaz, however, refused to be turned away from his intention. At midnight, he and his 300 trusty attendants advanced upon the Amorite camp. Close upon it, he commanded his men to halt, but to resume their march and to follow him when they should hear the notes of the trumpet. If the trumpet was not sounded, they were to return home. Alone, Kenaz ventured into the very camp of the enemy. Praying to Yahuwah fervently, he asked that a sign be given to him. Let this be the sign of the salvation thou wilt accomplish for me this day. I shall draw my sword from its sheath and brandish it so that it glitters in the camp of the Amorites. If the enemy recognize it as the sword of Kenaz, then I shall know that thou wilt deliver them into my hand. If not, I shall understand that thou hast not granted my prayer, but dost purpose to deliver me into the hand of the enemy for my sins. He heard the Amorites say, Let us proceed to give battle to the Israelites, for our sacred gods, the nymphs, are in their hands, and we will cause their defeat. When he heard these words, the spirit of Yahuwah came over Kenaz. He arose and swung his sword above his head. Scarce had the Amorites seen the gleam in the air when they exclaimed, Verily, this is the sword of Kenaz, who has come to inflict wounds and pain. But we know that our gods, who are held by the Israelites, will deliver them into our hands. Up then to battle. Knowing that Yahuwah had heard his petition, Kenaz threw himself upon the Amorites and mowed down 45,000 of them, and as many perished at the hands of their own brethren, for Yahuwah had sent the angel Gabriel to his aid, and he had struck the Amorites blind, so that they fell upon one another. On the account of the vigorous blows dealt by Kenaz on all sides, his sword stuck to his hand. A fleeing Amorite, whom he stopped to ask him how to loose it, advised him to slay a Hebrew and let his warm blood flow over his hand. Kenaz accepted his advice, but only in part. Instead of a Hebrew, he slew the Amorite himself, and the blood freed his hand from the sword. When Kenaz came back to his men, he found them sunk in profound sleep, which had overtaken them, that they might not see the wonders done for their leader. They were not a little astonished on awakening to behold the whole plain strewn with dead bodies of the Amorites. Then Kenaz said to them, Are the ways of Yahuwah like unto the ways of man? Through me, Yahuwah hath sent deliverance to this people. Arise now and go back to your tents. The people recognized that a great miracle had happened, and they said, Now we know that Yahuwah hath wrought salvation for his people. He hath no need of numbers, but only of holiness. Remember, I told y'all, look now. If you keep yourself pure before the Most Holy, he will work great wonders for you. Remember, I was mentioning that yesterday as I was reading through. I was telling y'all about the book of Raziel, how it talks about. I was talking to my mom and my sister about that yesterday, but I made mention of it quite a few times up here. And it talks about, remember how we read in the beginning of this, and that was a book that Yahuwah had given unto men. You know, Adam had it, and it passed through the generations, even unto King Solomon. That's where they acquired all that wisdom from. Yahuwah allowed them to see, so they understood some supernatural things, and all of that was written in the book of Raziel. Although I'm almost 100% sure that all of it hasn't been translated completely, but with some of the things in there. But anyway, all the way through the book, it tells you that you must remain holy in order for literally all of heaven and earth to come to your aid, right? So I'm telling y'all, there are some supernatural things that Yahuwah will accomplish for you, and you would get out of what would seem to be trouble that could possibly take your life if you remain holy, right? Heaven and earth fights for those who remain holy, right? That's a promise. Yahuwah said, you keep my commands, I will keep you. So I'm telling y'all, I wish I could share some of the stuff with y'all that I got. I can't share with everybody. If everybody not ready for it, they be like, what you say now? Look, I'm telling you what I know. Kathy, hey girl, hey, shalom. Okay, look. Arise now and go back to your tents. The people recognized that a great miracle had happened, and they said, Now we know that Yahuwah hath wrought salvation for his people. He hath no need of numbers, but only of holiness. On his return from the campaign, Kenaz was received with great rejoicing. The whole people now gave thanks to Yahuwah for having put him over them as their leader. They desired to know how he had won the great victory. Kenaz only answered, Ask those who were there with me about my deeds. His men were thus forced to confess that they knew nothing. Only on awakening, they had seen the plain full of dead bodies without being able to account for their being there. Then Kenaz turned to the 37 men in prison before he left for war, for having cast aspersions upon him. Well, he said, what charge have you to make against me? Seeing that death was inevitable, they confessed that they were of the sort of sinners whom Kenaz and the people had executed, and Yahuwah had now surrendered them to him on account of their misdeeds, and they too were burnt with fire. Kenaz reigned for a period of 57 years. When he felt his end draw nigh, he summoned the two prophets, Phinehas and Jabez, together with the priest Phinehas, the son of Eleazar. To these he spake, I know the heart of this people, that it will turn from following after Yahuwah. Therefore do I testify against it. Phinehas, the son of Eleazar, replied, As Moses and Joshua testified, so do I testify against it. For Moses and Joshua prophesied concerning the vineyard, the beautiful planting of Yahuwah, which knew not who had planted it, and did not recognize him who cultivated it, so that the vineyard was destroyed and brought forth no fruit. These are the words of my father. These are the words my father commanded me to say unto this people. Kenaz broke out into loud wailing, and with him the elders and the people, and they wept until eventide, saying, It is for the iniquity of the sheep that the shepherd must... Oh, that's a question, I'm sorry. Is it for the iniquity of the sheep that the shepherd must perish? May Yahuwah have compassion upon his inheritance, that it may not work in vain. The spirit of Yahuwah descended upon Kenaz, and he beheld a vision. He prophesied that this world would continue to exist only 7,000 years, to be followed then by the kingdom of heaven. These words spoken, the prophetical spirit departed from him, and he straightway forgot what he had uttered during the vision. Before he passed away, he spoke once more, saying, "If such be the rest which the righteous obtain after their death, it were better for them to die than to live in this corrupt world and see its iniquities." As Kenaz left no male heirs, Zebul was appointed his successor. Mindful of the great service Kenaz had performed for the nation, Zebul acted a father's part toward the 3 unmarried daughters of his predecessor. At his instance, the people assigned a rich marriage portion to each of them. They were given great domains as their property. The oldest of the 3, Athema by name, he married to Elzaphan. The second, Phaliah, to Odihel, and the youngest, Zilpah, to Doel. Zebul, the judge, instituted a treasury at Shiloh. He bade the people bring contributions, whether of gold or of silver. They were only to take heed not to carry anything thither that had originally belonged to an idol. His efforts were crowned with success. The freewill offerings to the temple treasure amounted to 20 talents of gold and 250 talents of silver. Zebul's reign lasted 25 years. Before his death, he admonished the people solemnly to be God-fearing and observant of the law. All right, we're going to the next section. Othniel. Othniel was a judge of a very different type. His contemporaries said that before the son of Joshua went down, the son of Othniel, his successor in the leadership of the people, appeared on the horizon. The new leader's real name was Judah. Othniel was one of his epithets, as Jabez was another. Among the judges, Othniel represents the class of scholars. His acumen was so great that he was able, by dint of dialect reasoning, to restore the 1700 traditions which Moses had taught the people and which had been forgotten in the time of mourning for Moses. Nor did his zeal for the promotion of the study of Torah inferior to his learning. Nor was his zeal for the promotion of the study of Torah inferior to his learning. The descendants of Jethro left Jericho, the district assigned to them, and journeyed to Arad, only that they might sit at the feet to Othniel. That should be of. Only that they might sit at the feet of Othniel. His wife, the daughter of his half-brother Caleb, was not so pleased with him. She complained to her father that her husband's house was bare of all earthly goods, and his only possession was the knowledge of Torah. I mean, isn't that all you need? Everything else you can get with just that alone. She tripping. Hold on. The first event to be noted in Othniel's 40 years reign is his victory over Adoni-Bezek. This chief did not occupy a prominent position among the Canaanitish rulers. He was not even accounted a king. Nevertheless, he had conquered 70 foreign kings. The next event was the capture of Luz by the Israelites. The only way to gain entrance into Luz was by a cave, and the road to the cave lay through a hollow almond tree. If the secret approach to the city had not been betrayed by one of its residents, it would have been impossible for the Israelites to reach it. Yahuwah rewarded the informer who put the Israelites in the way of capturing Luz. The city he founded was left unmolested by both Sennacherib and Nebuchadnezzar, and not even the angel of death has power over its inhabitants. They never die. Unless weary of life, they leave the city. Oh, that sounds like Wakanda, don't it? No, for real. I ain't joking. I'm serious. Although we know it wasn't named Wakanda, it has a real name, which is based off some real-time events. The same good fortune did not mark Othniel's reign throughout. For 8 years, Israel suffered oppression at the hands of Cushan, the evildoer who in former days had threatened to destroy the patriarch Jacob as he was now endeavoring to destroy the descendants of Jacob, for Cushan is only another name for Laban. Othniel, however, was held so little answerable for the causes that had brought on the punishment of the people that Yahuwah granted him eternal life. He is one of the few who reached paradise alive. Boaz and Ruth. What do we get? 37. Oh, yeah. We're going to read Deborah today. Okay. The story of Ruth came to pass 100 years after Othniel's reign. Hey, Tootie. Mm-hmm. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. All the ice creams. Not right now, Tootie. I'll get you something in a minute, okay? But it's not going to be ice cream. The story of Ruth came to pass 100 years after Othniel's reign. Conditions in Palestine were of such a nature that if a judge said to a man, "Remove the mote from thine eye," his reply was, "Do thou remove the beam from thy own?" To chastise the Israelites, Yahuwah sent down to them one of the 10 seasons of famine which he had ordained as disciplinary measures for mankind, from the creation of the world until the advent of Messiah. Elimelech and his sons, who belonged to the aristocracy of the land, attempted neither to improve the sinful generation whose transgressions had called forth the famine, nor alleviate the distress that prevailed about them. They left Palestine and thus withdrew themselves from the needy who had counted upon their help. They turned their face to Moab. There, on the account of their wealth and highest descent, they were made officers in the army. Mahalan and Chilion, the sons of Elimelech, rose to still higher distinction. They married the daughters of the Moabite king Eglon, but this did not happen until after the death of Elimelech, who was opposed to intermarriage with the heathen. Neither the wealth nor the family connections of the two men helped them before Yahuwah. First, they sank into poverty, and as they continued in their sinful ways, Yahuwah took their life. Naomi, their mother, resolved to return to her home. Her two daughter-in-laws were very dear to her on the account of the love they had bore her sons, a love strong even in death, for they refused to marry again. Yet she would not take them with her to Palestine, because she foresaw contemptuous treatment in store for them as Moabitish women. Ophrah was easily persuaded to remain behind. She accompanied her mother-in-law a distance of 4 miles, and then she took leave of her, shedding only 4 tears as she bade her farewell. Subsequent events showed that she had not been worthy of entering into the Hebrew community, for scarcely had she separated from Naomi when she abandoned herself to an immoral life. But with Yahuwah, nothing goes unrewarded. For the 4 miles which Ophrah traveled with Naomi, she was recompensed by bringing forth 4 giants, Goliath and his 3 brothers. Look. Let me finish reading this before I get started on stuff. I'm putting stuff together. Hold on now. Clearly, we know all of this was left out in the story of Boaz and Ruth, right? We just know about Naomi. Her sons had died, this was talking about her sons here. Oh, yes, my lemon water. Oh, I forgot about it in the freezer. Let that sit here and thaw, okay? Go ahead and close that up, too. Oh, yeah, go ahead. You can get that. Can you reach it? Okay, yes. Go ahead and get it. Okay. But I did not know that that the daughter who left them and decided she was going to go ahead and go, that she was the mother of Goliath. Let me go ahead and read this again. Okay. Subsequent events showed that she had not been worthy of entering into the Hebrew community, for scarcely had she separated from Naomi when she abandoned herself to an immoral life. But with Yahuwah, nothing goes unrewarded. For the 4 miles which Ophrah traveled with Naomi, she was recompensed by bringing forth 4 giants, Goliath and his 3 brothers. Ruth's bearing and history were far different. She was determined to become a Hebrew, and her decision could not be shaken by what Naomi, in compliance with the Hebrew injunction, told her of the difficulties of the Hebrew law. Naomi warned her that the Israelites had been enjoined to keep Sabbaths and feast days, and that the daughters of Israel were not in the habit of frequenting the theaters and circuses of the heathen. Ruth only affirmed her readiness to follow the Hebrew customs. And when Naomi said, "We have one Torah, one law, one command. The eternal, our God, is one, and there is none beside him," Ruth answered, "Thy people shall be my people, and thy God my God." So the 2 women journeyed together to Bethlehem. When they arrived there on the very day on which the wife of Boaz was buried, and the concourse assembled for the funeral saw Naomi as she returned to her home, Ruth supported herself and her mother-in-law sparsely with the ears of grain which she gathered in the fields. Association with so pious a woman as Naomi had already exercised great influence upon her life and ways. Boaz was astonished to notice that if the reapers let more than 2 ears fall, in spite of her need, she did not pick them up. For the gleaning assigned to the poor by law does not refer to the quantities of more than 2 ears inadvertently dropped at one time. Wow. Sis was like, look, according to law, I know you dropped them too, but by law, then that would be considered stealing for me, so I'm going to just leave them there, right? Look, wow, hold on. Boaz was astonished to notice that if the reapers let more than 2 ears fall, in spite of her need, she did not pick them up. For the gleaning assigned to the poor by law does not refer to the quantities of more than 2 ears inadvertently dropped at one time. Boaz also admired her grace, her decorous conduct, and her modest demeanor. When he learned who she was, he commended her for her attachment to the Hebrew customs. To his praise she returned, "Thy ancestors found no delight, even in Timnah, the daughter of a royal house. As for me, I am a member of a low people, abominated by thy God, and excluded from the assembly of Israel." For the moment, Boaz failed to recollect that the halakha bearing on the Moabites and the Ammonites, a voice from heaven reminded him that only their males were affected by the command of exclusion. This he told to Ruth, and he also told her of a vision he had concerning her descendants. For the sake of the good she had done for her mother-in-law, kings and prophets would spring from her womb. Boaz showed kindness not only to Ruth and Naomi, but also to their dead. Oh, yeah. So remember a few days ago, y'all, when we was reading, and as they were about to go in to destroy the people, Yahuwah said, "Do not completely annihilate the Moabites and the Amorites." He said, "Because I have 2 treasures down in a few generations down that I want to spare." He was talking about Ruth, and he was talking about Naomi, right? It's so good. Look, Yahuwah is good to all. I'm telling you, he is, right? Okay. For the sake of the good she had done to her mother-in-law, kings and prophets would spring from her womb. Boaz showed kindness not only to Ruth and Naomi, but also to their dead. He took upon himself the decent burial of the remains of Elimelech and his 2 sons. All this begot in Naomi the thought that Boaz harbored the intention of marrying Ruth. She thought to coax the secret, if such there was, from Ruth. When she found that nothing could be elicited from her daughter-in-law, she made Ruth her partner in a plan to force Boaz into a decisive step. Ruth adhered to Naomi's direction in every particular, except that she did not wash and anoint herself and put on fine raiment until after she had reached her destination. She feared to attract the attention of the She feared to attract the attention of the lustful if she walked along the road decked out in unusual finery. The moral condition in those days were very reprehensible. Though Boaz was high-born and a man of substance, yet he slept on the threshing floor so that his presence might act as a check upon profligacy. In the midst of his sleep, Boaz was startled to find someone next to him. At first, he thought it was a demon. Ruth calmed his disquietude with these words, Thou art the head of the court. Thy ancestors were princes. Thou art thyself an honorable man, and a kinsman of my dead husband. As for me, who am in the flower of my years, since I have left the home of my parents, since I have left the home of my parents, where homage is rendered unto idols, I have been constantly menaced by the dissolute young men around. So I have come hither that thou, who art the Redeemer, mayest spread out thy skirt over me. Boaz gave her the assurance that if his older brother Tob failed her, he would assume the duties of a redeemer. The next day, he came before the tribunal of the Sanhedrin to have the matter adjusted. Tob soon made his appearance, for an angel led him to the place where he was wanted, and Boaz and Ruth might not have to wait too long. Tob, who was not learned in the Torah, did not know that the prohibition against the Moabites had reference only to males. Therefore, he declined to marry Ruth. So she was taken to wife by the octogenarian Boaz. Ruth herself was 40 years old at the time of her second marriage, and it was against all expectations that her union with Boaz should be blessed with offspring, a son of Obed the pious. Ruth lived to see the glory of Solomon, but Boaz died on the day after the wedding. Shoot. Okay, look. Deborah. We have 50 minutes, okay. Not long after Ruth, another ideal woman arose in Israel, the prophetess Deborah. When Ehud died, there was none to take his place as judge, and the people fell off from Yahuwah and his law. Yahuwah therefore sent an angel to them with the following message. Out of all the nations on earth, I chose a people for myself, and I thought, so long as the world stands, my glory will rest upon them. I sent Moses unto them, my servant, to teach them goodness and righteousness. But they strayed from my ways, and now I will arouse their enemies against them to rule over them, and they will cry out, because we forsook the ways of our fathers, hath this come over us. Then I will send a woman unto them, and she will shine for them as a light for 40 years. The enemy whom Yahuwah raised up against Israel was Jabin, the king of Hazor, who oppressed him sorely. But worse than the king himself was his general Sisera, one of the greatest heroes known to history. When he was 30 years old, he had conquered the whole world. At the sound of his voice, the strongest of walls fell in a heap, and the wild animals in the woods were chained to the spot by fear. The proportions of his body were vast beyond description. If he took a bath in a river, it dived beneath the surface. If he took a bath in a river and dived beneath the surface, enough fish were caught in his beard to feed a multitude, and it required no less than 900 horses to draw the chariot in which he rode. Okay, clearly this was a huge man. Okay, we can keep on reading. To rid Israel of this tyrant, Yahuwah appointed Deborah and her husband Barak. Barak was an ignoramus, like most of his contemporaries. It was a time singularly deficient to scholars. In order to do something meritorious in connection with divine service, he carried candles at his wife's instance to the sanctuary, wherefrom he was called Lipidoth, flames. Deborah was in the habit of making the wicks of the candles very thick so that they might burn a long time. Therefore Yahuwah distinguished her. He said, thou takest pains to shed light in my house, and I will let thy light, thy flame, shine abroad in the whole land. Thus it happened that Deborah became a prophetess and a judge. She dispensed judgment in the open air, for it was not becoming that men should visit a woman in her house. Prophetess though she was yet subject to the frailties of her sex. Her self-consciousness was inordinate. She sent for Barak to come to her instead of going to him, and in her song she spoke more of herself than was seemly. Sis. The result was that the prophetical spirit departed from her for a time while she was composing her song. The salvation of Israel was effected only after the people assembled on the Mount of Judah had confessed their sins publicly before Yahuwah and besought his help. A 7 days fast was proclaimed for men and women, for young and old. Then Yahuwah resolved to help the Israelites, not for their sakes, but for the sake of keeping the oath he had sworn to their forefathers, never to abandon their seed. Therefore he sent Deborah unto them. The task allotted to Deborah and Barak to lead the attack upon Sisera was by no means slight. It is comparable with nothing less than Joshua's undertaking to conquer Canaan. Joshua had triumphed over only 31 and 62 kings of Palestine, leaving at large as many as he had subdued. Under the leadership of Sisera, these 31 unconquered kings opposed Israel. No less than 40,000 armies, each counting 100,000 warriors, were arrayed against Deborah and Barak. Yahuwah aided Israel with water and fire, the river Kishon and all the fiery hosts of heaven, except the star Meros fought against Sisera. The Kishon had long before been plunged to play its part into Sisera's overthrow. When the Egyptians were drowned in the Red Sea, Yahuwah commanded the angel of the sea to cast their corpses on the land, that the Israelites might convince themselves of the destruction of their foes, and those of little faith might not say afterwards that the Egyptians, like the Israelites, had reached the dry land. The angel of the sea complained of the impropriety of withdrawing a gift. Yahuwah mollified him with the promise of future compensation. The Kishon was offered as security that he would receive half as many bodies again as he was now giving up. When Sisera's troops sought relief from the scorching fire of the heavenly bodies in the coolness of the waters of the Kishon, Yahuwah commanded the river to redeem its pledge, and so the heathen were swept down into the sea by waves of the Kishon River, whereas the fish in the sea exclaimed, and the truth of Yahuwah endureth forever. Like, give me my payment. All you bodies jump in here. Let's go. I've been waiting since Israel left out of Egypt to take these bodies back. But, bruh, Sisera's lot was no better than the lot of the men. He fled from the battle on horseback after witnessing the annihilation of his vast army. When Jael saw him approach, she went to him arrayed in rich garments and jewels. She was unusually beautiful, and her voice was the most seductive ever a woman possessed. These are the words she addressed to him. Enter and refresh thyself with food and sleep until evening, and then I will send my attendants with thee to accompany thee, for I know that thou wilt not forget me, and thy recompense will not fail. When Sisera, on stepping into her tent, saw the bed strewn with roses, which Jael had prepared for him, he resolved to take her home to his mother as his wife, as soon as his safety should be assured. He asked her for milk to drink, saying, My soul burns with the flames which I saw in the stars contending for Israel. Jael went forth to milk her goat, meantime supplicating Yahuwah to grant her his help. I pray to thee, O Lord, to strengthen thy maidservant against thy enemy. By this token I shall know that thou wilt aid me. If when I enter the house, Sisera will awaken and ask me for water to drink. Scarcely had Jael crossed the threshold when Sisera awakened and begged for water to quench his burning thirst. Jael gave him wine mixed with water, which caused him to drop into a sound sleep again. The woman then took a wooden spike in her hand, approached the sleeping warrior, and said, This shall be the sign that thou wilt deliver him into my hand. If I draw him from the bed down to the ground without awaking him. She tugged at Sisera, and in very truth he did not awaken, even when he dropped from the bed to the floor. Oh, he was drunk. Well, clearly Yahuwah put him into a deep sleep when he drunk that. But she said, I'm going to know that you are with me. I'm going to drag him onto the floor. And if I drag him onto the floor and he don't wake up, I know that victory you have given into my hands this day. This shall be the sign that thou wilt deliver him into my hand, if I draw him from the bed down on the ground without awaking him. She tugged at Sisera, and in very truth he did not awaken, even when he dropped from the bed to the floor. Then Jael prayed, O Yah, strengthen the arm of thy maidservant this day, for thy sake, for the sake of thy people, and for the sake of those in hope, and for the sake of those that hope in thee. With a hammer she drove the spike into the temple of Sisera, who cried out as he was expiring, Oh, that I should lose my life by the hand of a woman. Jael's mocking retort was, Descend to hell and join thy fathers, and tell them that thou did fall by the hand of a woman. Barak took charge of the body of the dead warrior, and he sent it to Sisera's mother, Themach, with the message, Here is thy son, whom thou did expect to see returning laden with booty. He had in the mind the vision of Themach and her women in waiting. Ooh, we read that, didn't we? Remember, we was reading that in here when his mother, it said that his mother was waiting for him to return, thinking that he would return with these costly robes. Because remember, Israel, Yahuwah dressed them in costly, beautiful colored robes, right? And so she said she looking forward to her son returning with all these beautiful colored robes, which would insinuate that you've killed them and taken their stuff, right? Look. Barak took charge of the body of the dead warrior, and he sent it to Sisera's mother, Themach, with the message, Here is thy son, whom thou did expect to see, returning, laden with booty. He had in mind the vision of Themach and her women in waiting when Sisera went forth to battle. Their conjuring tricks had shown him to them as he lay on the bed of a Hebrew woman. This they had interpreted to mean that he would return with Hebrew captives, 1 damsel, 2 damsels for every man, they had said. Great, therefore, was the disappointment of Sisera's mother. No less than 100 cries did she utter over him. Deborah and Barak thereupon intoned a song of praise, thanking Yahuwah for the deliverance of Israel out of the power of Sisera, and reviewing the history of the people since the time of Abraham. After laboring for the will of her nation for 40 years, Deborah departed this life. Her last words to the weeping people were an exhortation not to depend upon the dead. They can do nothing for the living. So long as a man is alive, his prayers are efficacious for himself and for others. They avail naught once he is dead. The whole nation kept a 70 days period of mourning in honor of Deborah, and the land was at peace for 7 years. And the next portion is Gideon, which we started today, so it just falls right in line. So, okay, we'll pick it up with Gideon tomorrow in both places, in Judges and in here. I just love how it's crazy, right? Look, And this is the first time I'm actually, well, I've listened to it, but it's the first time I'm actually reading it through while we're reading through the actual Bible, not knowing that it would line up like it's been doing. It's crazy, right? Boy, let me tell you. Y'all never ceases to amaze me. Never ceases to amaze me. All right, y'all. So that was, we read Judges 4, 5, and 6. On Legends of the Jews, we started on page 395 and we stopped on page 399. I'm gonna get them children. I know y'all hear them fighting in the background. And y'all better stop slamming my doors. Their daddy just walked out the house, so they think they can turn up a little bit. He ain't pulled off yet. Bella! Josiah, quit pinching her. When she get mad with them, look, she 4 years old, but she walked through here and she sounds like a whole grown adult. Like, she get mad, she will stomp, and it's like you can hear her stomps. Like, you in a couple of videos, you hear her stomp up the stairs. You can hear it. She's loud. Like, this little tiny girl is so loud. I'm just like, oh my gosh, you know. So it's kind of a shock to my system because we had 5 boys before she came along. And it's like, what? Why is she like this? She's the sweetest thing, don't get me wrong. I love my Tootie, right? But do not upset this child, right? She is a blazing fire. And I be looking at her sometime. I'm like, and James be like, that's your daughter. I'm like, look here now. Look, little girl. I'm like, Father, okay, clearly you're going to be someone great. You are someone great. Teach me how to rear this child, like how to cultivate these personalities, all of them, right? Oh my gosh. Okay, y'all. But anyway, that was Judges 4, 5, and 6. And Legends of the Jews, page 395 to page 399. It is Thursday, March 11th, 2021, day 99 of year 3 of reading through the books of the law and the prophets. Another 3-year consecutive day count. It is day 768. You the one that got dressed and everything, sis. Okay. And you match. Okay. All right, y'all. So let's go ahead. Hop down. Hop down. Hop down.
Mama, I want to feel that.
Here. Fill it over there. Hop down. Okay. Hop down. Don't drop it, please. Okay. All right, y'all. So we're going to go ahead and pull up the blessing, and I'll go through and look and see if there's some questions I rarely glanced over today to look.
This is really sour.
It's really sour, but it's really good. Remember, the blessing is found in Numbers chapter 6, verses 22 through 27. Remember, the first 21 verses is the Nazarite vow. Man or woman can take it. I constantly repeat it because Yahuwah does wonderful things with Nazarites. I'm telling you, it's just choose to set yourself apart unto Yahuwah for a period of time, and you will really enjoy it. Even if you don't do anything great and notable, you will really enjoy the wisdom that comes unto you as you set yourself apart unto him and keep a vow. I'm telling you, it's worth taking. Even if I'm telling you, it's not something that should be taken lightly. You really should consider all that's required of you, right, during this time. But I'm telling you, it's such a blessed time to be set apart unto him. All right. And Yahuwah spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto Aaron and unto his sons, saying, On this wise ye shall bless the children of Israel, saying unto them, May Yahuwah bless us and keep us. May Yahuwah make his face to shine upon us and be gracious unto us. May Yahuwah lift up his countenance upon us and give us his peace. And they shall put my name upon the children of Israel, and I will bless them. Okay, let's see. I will check. Okay. Josiah, shalom, shalom. Have I encountered any literature that gives a chronological history of the tribes? Aside from the Bible, and even some of the stuff in the Bible, like the names, like yeah, I have, but even some of the names in here have been changed where you can't necessarily kind of connect them. I have a few things. Yeah. I'm gonna have to look to actually get you the names where you can kind of go look. But see, here's what you have to understand, right? And that's why you see me like the last couple of years I've been doing a lot of research and checking in Africa and stuff, because once I realized that it's although the words of Yah still there, it's still kind of changed in a way where it doesn't necessarily connect you with our Bantu roots, and you have to look into that. You got to go looking down that vein in order to get it correct, right? Because even with the regular Bible, the Jewish people and how they kind of compose everything, it still throws you off. Where if you don't understand, if you have not started actually connecting with your Bantu roots to even kind of understand it, you won't be able to make the connection. So a lot of the research and stuff that I've been doing and through Africa and understanding some of these things, let me tell you when it started. I didn't realize it. I think I shared this dream with y'all probably shortly, maybe a year after I had it, because I had this dream. Well, no, not the dream, what I actually heard. It was in I want to say it was 2018. It was March. It was look, we're in March. It was I want to say, if I remember correctly, it was March the 3rd, 2018. And I woke up and I heard this word Kikuyu, right? And I'm like, first of all, I giggled because it sounded funny to me. I had never heard that before. But yes, baby girl. Okay, hold on. I giggled, but I was like, let me write that down. I didn't know how to spell it, and I think I misspelled it, but I spelled it out the way that I heard it, Kikuyu, right? And so I'm like, okay, what is that, Father? And I giggle. I'm like, that doesn't even sound like a word. I don't even know what that is, but I wrote it down. And I didn't go back to it until a couple days later. I was like, oh yeah, that word I need to look up. But when I was looking it up, the way I wrote it out, I wrote it wrong. I just kind of spelt it the way I heard it so I could remember the pronunciation of it, right? So my first couple searches didn't really turn up anything. I was like, this is not even a word. I don't know. Father, was I hearing from you? So I looked just for a little bit, maybe about 15 minutes max, and I didn't find anything. But it was something I heard it, and I heard it. It was clear. I was like, okay, I clearly don't just like hear stuff just to be hearing stuff. This must mean something. And I guess maybe, okay, you gave it to me now. Maybe I'll find out later, and I'll come across it sometime later. So after the first 15 minutes of kind of looking through it, I didn't find anything. I'm like, okay. So I put it in my dream folder. I left it there. A couple months later, it comes back to me. Kikuyu. I'm like, okay, let me look at this. Okay, so this time, I went back to my notes, and I pulled it up. I'm like, okay, I didn't find anything, so I'm going to look for it again. And so this time I thought about, okay, could I have spelled it wrong? Is this a word? So I said it into my Google, like the Google voice, and voila. By me actually saying it, it actually brings up a lot of videos on Kikuyu. First of all, I was blown away that it was a real word. I'm like, oh snap! What? This is a real word. This is a real word. I'm like, wait a minute. This is a people? Wait, what? And so that's when I started. I was kind of taken for a little bit on that road, finding about the Kikuyu people and stuff, and just a lot of different things I started realizing, and some of my dreams that started coming. I was like, wait a minute. Do I descend from the Kikuyu? Oh my gosh. And then I started thinking about my dream that I had about Mount Zion being located in Kenya. I'm like, wait, what? And I had this dream. I was 19 years old when I had this dream about Zion being in Kenya. I'm like, wait, what? And so my dreams started coming back to me as I was reading more about the Kikuyu people. I'm like, Father, you've been telling me this since I was a teenager, but clearly I had no knowledge of it, didn't understand. And I'm just like, okay. Very good. But I keep the stuff and I write it in my dream folder. I got old dream folders that are tatted and everything, but I try to make everything electronic and put it in there. So I started going through some of my old dreams. I was like, wait a minute. Wait, do we descend from these people? And so as I started looking into more of the things, and even the things like the Ark of the Covenant, I'm like, oh snap, been telling me this for years. Like, and it wasn't registering inside of me until I actually started looking into it, because they, dreams, okay, didn't quite understand it. Put it in my dream folder. And I'm just kind of, I just left it for the time being, because I noticed over the period of years, my dreams began to connect. So I have to go back to them and pull them up. Yes. No, don't put any warm water in there. So, but it wasn't until then when I actually started looking into it where I realized, oh, snap, wait a minute. So, started looking up the Kikuyu, and then I started learning about Bantu. Matter of fact, it's a brother up here, Jonathan Shalombo. I came across his channel, and he was doing a lot of talking about it. So I was like, oh, snap, there are people out here that is actually talking about this. I was like, wait a minute. So, and he actually, matter of fact, if you go to his channel, Jonathan Shalombo, it was a couple videos. I think it's like last year now, he did some, matter of fact, I'll post them here in the comment section, where he actually started talking about the tribes and stuff. So I think that'll be helpful for you, Uncle Nathaniel, and you can look at that, because he kind of gives, Pootie, get out, I'm almost done.
Mom,
yes.
your hair gone.
Because he gives some history on the tribes, and he tells you how you can, I believe it was, don't quote me, but anyway, I'm going to share it. But anyway, he gives some history about this. So some of his videos actually helped me in my research, things that I was already looking at, to help me kind of piece it together. So the names of the tribes of Israel, clearly we know Israel, it wasn't called Israel, right? The real name, and here's something that I thought was awesome. So we read it here in English, and we call them Israel. And we say Israel for the sake, because most people don't really know the real Bantu name. So we'll say Israel so everybody know who we're talking about. But Israel is not Israel. It's Yisolili in Bantu. Or you hear some people say Yisaela. But I actually heard people in India calling Israel Yisolili. Yisolili. I'm like, everybody but America is doing this right? And so it's a lot of propaganda in America. And you remember the created state of Israel over there, which is in cahoots with America over here. They've created this whole, not just them, but it's been a process of years, even with Constantine and all of that stuff. It's been a process of years to change the name and rearrange things to kind of keep the true people of Yahuwah, the true sons and daughters of the Most Holy, asleep, and none the wiser. They do all of this, and they change the names, and it helps them, it keeps them from being able to connect the dots, right? So you got to do a little bit more research to actually connect the dots. And I said all that to say, you have to, if you really want to get down into it, you have to do some of the researching on the Bantu roots, because these were actually Bantu names, and the names that they have, like Judah, those were not the real names, but those are replacement names for the real people in those tribes. So I'll share some resources about that so you can see. But when you get that, you will be able to see it a little bit better. And when you get that missing piece, the Bantu roots of our history, it'll make a lot of other things make sense, and it'll help wash away some of the lies, because you will see, stop girl, you'll see that it doesn't add up with the truth, right? So now we have to make a decision. Do we keep on moving with the lies that we were taught, or do we need to now adjust what we have learned to the truth? Because when we begin to adjust what we learn to the actual truth, the truth can be found all throughout history. It's been covered up, but it's also being revealed now to the true sons and daughters of the Most High. And we're waking up, and we're returning to ourselves. We're coming to, Yahuwah calls it, coming to ourselves in the land of our captivity, right? And as we begin coming to ourselves in the land of our captivity, and we remember who we are and whose we are, and the gifts He's given us, and the power that's inside of us, literally inside of us, we can begin moving in faith and in power and power in knowing that when we speak and when we move, all of heaven and earth and nature will line up behind us. Do you know how many amazing things that our people did and still can do, but don't even understand what lies within them? When I tell you nature will come and fight for you, you can literally, I know I might lose some people, but you can literally, I ain't gonna say you can control nature, but nature will come to your aid on things like if you're really in trouble on different things, you got to think about it. That's who will always help us fight. All the elements and all the earth, everything that's within our atmosphere, he uses it to help his people, right? Mama said, I'll take a just for 1,000, Alex. I'm telling you, look, I'm telling you, this get more exciting day by day. I'm like, what? We can do what? What? Wait a minute. What? Wait, what'd you just say, y'all? We can do what? What? Show me how to do that. That's why I be like, look, y'all got to get these bodies in order. Y'all got to cleanse it out from all the junk, return it to its natural state. And as you will realize as you begin to cleanse your body and return to a plant-based lifestyle of eating, you will realize a lot. You can hear clearer, right? You will begin to refresh and renew and rejuvenate the systems on the inside of you, your energy systems and stuff. You, depending on where you live at, they'll call it different things. But if you say some words over here in the Americas, it'll trigger you. It'll trigger some people who have been in the church like, oh my gosh, you're getting into New Age. No, my G, everybody literally has these energy systems in their body. The medical field talks about it. If you go into India, they'll call them by different things like the chakras and stuff like that. But they're talking about the energy systems within inside the body that every human being has, from the pineal gland, which they call the third eye. But everybody has that, right? Everybody has that. All of these things that they call the chakra systems is relating to the energy system inside of every human body, right? All the way down in the center, all the organs in our body, all the way down from our like the solar plexus and all these things to the heart, all the way up.
See me?
Baby girl, yes, I see you.
With your staff?
I see you with my staff. Okay, so all of these things are inside of everybody. When we realize that and we begin to cleanse ourselves out, it just naturally begins to happen, y'all. Like, you don't even have to really be seeking to become more spiritual. As you begin to cleanse your body out and return it to its natural state and how it should be operated, you're just going to realize that you start to become more in tune with nature around you and even the unseen world. Like, it just happens by default, right? So when you talk about it to people, those who I guess who are really not on the, they just gonna live whatever. They don't care about y'all. They don't care about nothing. They just whatever. I ain't talking about them type of people, but I'm talking about those who love the Most High and know that He exists and know that we're not just here just to be here. You know, it's those people that I'm talking about that are really trying to live a upright and a holy life. Not that you're super spiritual and spooky spiritual, not that, but a good, decent person here on the earth wants the power of the Most High to flow through you. It should be a normal thing for us. That should be a part of our normal life. The sons and daughters of the Most High, right? We are the light here on earth to all the other nations. We are the firstborn. Yahuwah said, Israel, ye solely is my firstborn. While the world teaches you he has another son, Yahuwah said, Israel, ye solely is my firstborn. He constantly said, Israel is my servant. Not one person, the whole nation of these people, right? And what? His son now is scattered to the four corners of the earth. But now that we're waking up, all the nations will see that their salvation has literally been among them. And they've been killing and crucifying their salvation ever since we've been scattered, right? I'm telling y'all better get this. I'm telling you from what I know and what Yahuwah is revealing to me. I'm like, oh, shoot. I'm like, what? So it gets more exciting for me day by day. So, but, yeah, so that was kind of like a longer explanation. Yes, baby girl.
Look.
I'm looking.
Look.
What?
Look.
I'm look.
Want to take a walk?
Yes, we can go take a walk. You want to take a walk? Okay. So, but yeah, so in order to get the right chronological history, you have to get into the African history or the Bantu history of our people, for all of that to kind of really make sense and to go together like a hand in glove. It begins once you get that part right, you begin to get the
Mommy?
true pieces of the story. Yes, baby girl.
We tell boys to get them socks and shoes on.
You can tell them to get their socks and shoes on.
Yay.
Yes. So, but yeah, so that's how you can go through and get all. Like I said, I'll share some of those things. I'll share some of the videos from Brother Jonathan, or you see it. Well, if you're on YouTube, you'll see he come in from time to time, and his name is Yanata Chilombo. It's like TSHILOMBO. I had a hard time pronouncing it first, but the TSH is pronounced Ch, like Chilombo. And also, once you get in, you start learning about the Bantu history and the Bantu language, you will see how the letters are interchanged with different letters. And even the Yiddish language or the Hebrew language, or what they teaching now, is not really the language, but it's a spin off of the Bantu languages, right? And they just they screwed with it a little bit, right? They screwed with it a lot, but not so much that you can't track it back to its origin, right? So you gotta have all those pieces, and just to kind of help you put it together. But like I said, it's a lot of research and stuff that's done to people that's taught that. That's been teaching that for quite a few years now, to where you don't have to like reinvent the wheel. You know, you just need to verify your resources, make sure they're good, credible resources, and then you can kind of build upon those things and, you know, add your research to it, you know. So, but yeah, so that's it. I'll share those today. All right, I'll go back. And I think that was it. That was on the question. Yep. Okay. Thank you, Christy. Okay, so that's it, y'all. That's it. We out of here. Look, tomorrow is a Sabbath. It's the last Sabbath of this moon cycle. So we will be spotting the new moon. We calculate that we're going to see it on Sunday, but we learned we learned 2 moon cycles ago now not to use electronics is wonderful, but sometimes they're off a little bit. And so we still need to actually watch for the new moon when she shows herself. So she'll show herself. It'll be like when she shows herself for the new moon cycle, it's like the heralding to the new moon, the new month is starting. But so she'll show between like 30 minutes to maybe an hour. I said maybe even an hour and a half. Let's just say a max of 2 hours. The day that she shows. Before she actually begins to rise with the sun, right? Talk a bit about Passover. Okay, Trina. Okay, yeah. So tomorrow, like I said, is the last Sabbath of this moon cycle, and we should be seeing the new moon. And I'll record a video because I keep watching. My kids love being out there, so we'll watch for it. And when the new moon shows, she will show in the eastern sky from, you know, where we live in. I'm in Virginia in the United States, right? So she'll show in the western sky right after the sun sets. So this weekend, just kind of be watching. So after the sun sets, you can be looking for, because you're going to see it, the little sliver is going to begin to show. And if it's a really clear night, you will actually see the whole disk of the moon, but you will see just that little sliver show, right? So it's like the new moon coming in, and she only shows, I guess, for a max of like 2 hours, then she goes away that day, right? So that's the new moon sighting. We can call the new moon, and the next day is actually new moon day, right? She shows that night before, let you know, boom, tomorrow the new month begins. New moon day, and you'll notice for the first week or two that the moon begins to rise and set with the sun, right? And after about the first week, the first Sabbath, you'll begin to notice she'll begin to rise a little bit later, and she'll rise later and later until they're complete opposite. Now the moon, that she's no longer rising with the sun, because she has to rise with the sun. She gains all her light from the sun. So as she gets more and more light, she begins to rise later and later until we get to the end of the month, where she's now rising at night and when the sun sets, right? Because her job is to light up the night while the sun lights up the day, but she gets her light, the moon gets her light from the sun, you know. So that will begin actually this weekend. It will start, well, it'll probably be Monday, but I'll let you know for sure when we actually spot her. This will begin the first month, which is what? What's the first month of the new year? It is Passover, right? So now we can get, although we kind of pre-calculated the Passover days, I learned about 2 months ago, we better stay on top of this and check, because we don't want to continue to go astray. Like Yahuwah said, what happened, that we will begin to celebrate clean days on unclean days, right? So we got people selling Passover a month late, sometime almost 2 months late. I'm like, what? I'm like, wait a minute. Because they're using like the Jewish or the Yiddish calendar and stuff. I'm like, wait a minute, they done added the whole 13th month of y'all. I'm like, you ain't never said nothing about the 13th month. Come on, y'all. The year is 52 weeks exactly, according to the book of Enoch, when it goes through everything about the seasons and the year, and it breaks it down, right? And so you can verify a lot of that stuff as you read through the scriptures, if you're keeping a close eye on those things that kind of allude to the new month or the new moon. It brings everything into perfect alignment if you'll watch it. It makes sense to me, because I don't know, I just kind of always been interested in it, so I kind of gravitate to that, which I think is a wonderful thing, because it helps us to get back on Yahuwah's appropriate time clock and his time schedule, right? And so we know that we, Israel, the Bantu, Yisolili or Yisa'ela, we are Yahuwah's time clock. When you hear people say, keep your eyes on Israel, people looking that way at the created state, that was the state of Israel that was created by the Balfour Declaration with the U.S. and the Vatican and all that stuff. People look that way when you say Israel, but who they are looking at is us. They keeping their eyes on the black folk all across the world, because they know as they begin to see us, right, like they know time is up for them. Matter of fact, when the 400 years was up, shortly before it was up, even when former President Trump, he was in office, he made an announcement about it, right? Boom, 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 400 years, we're going to do this. They done set up this thing. You think it was just because they want to thank the black people for their contributions? No, they want to make you think that. But we know the truth behind the matter, because what they're doing behind the scenes and some of the things we see happening, right? They're watching Israel. They're watching us, who have been scattered to the four corners of the earth, and even more closely, America, right? So if you look at some of the things that's happened since it ended, now a lot of people got it kind of screwed up a little bit, right? So they think, okay, the 400 years has ended, boom. Why the black people still all scattered and stuff? Because it was a process, people. You got to look at it, right? It happened over the process of time. Like even when Moses showed up, it wasn't like immediately, right? Although things began to happen, the plagues and all that stuff, but there was a period of time for the plagues that happened, right? So each plague had a period of time that it had to run its course. So we began to see those things happen and began to ramp up a lot right after the 400 year end period, right? So a lot of people thought it was 2019, but if you calculate it, if it began in 1619, then we know about the transatlantic slave trade, the Spanish Inquisition, and the Arab slave trade. All of those things, you have to look at all of those things because it's all a part of the big picture. But the time when prophecy began was 1619, when the rest of Judah was scattered, right? Remember, the other 10 tribes, they were scattered first. Judah was the last, right? So the prophecy started there since 1619. But for a full year count from 1619 to 2019, it's not really a full year, because 1619, it would have been August. It could have been a couple days, a few days off or whatever. But they say August 20th, 1619. But August 20th, 1619 to the next year of 1620 was one complete year. So it would not have ended in 2019. The 400th year began 2019 and it ended 2020, right? When did everything started popping off? You got to look at it. Some things were so slowly starting to happen, but a lot of things started popping off in 2020, right? The plague started coming where it's like worldwide, world known. Like we're in the middle of all that now. So if you're paying attention to these little small details, if you get the picture of who the people truly are, if you realize who the true people of Israel, or Yisolili, are, you can kind of pinpoint all these other things. And that's why we see some of the prophecies from the what you call it, the white angelic church, or the Anglo-Saxons or whatever. Their prophecies are beginning to fail. Why? Because y'all been off. Your prophecies are off. Now that the time of captivity has ended officially for Yahuwah's people, we're going to see more and more of their prophecies failing, and you have to line them up with the true people, right? So if your prophecies are based on Israel, the created state by the Balfour Declaration, the prophecies are going to be off. That's why we could almost with precision tell you that former President Trump was not going to get another term. Right? And I began to see all that. A lot of people saying, oh, boom, boom, boom. I was like, no. Matter of fact, I made a post about it. I think it was October the 3rd. I said, remember I said this. And I know it's on Instagram because I screenshot and I put the date in there. I think it was October the 3rd or October the 9th. I said, remember I said this day, the elections and all this stuff, because I clearly had a dream and I didn't quite understand it. I had a couple of them. I didn't quite understand it. But as time progressed, I was like, oh yeah, he out of there. He is not getting another term, which was contrary to the prophecies of the other well-known prophets, from the other nations, right? Yeah, once captivity is over, those prophecies have to fail now, right? Now, Yahuwah's people begin to rise to the top. Look, just pay attention to what's happening with black people. But Yahuwah also said that he is going to deal with us, the rebel among us, face to face, while we're in the wilderness of the people. Where we at, y'all? We are in the wilderness of the people. Us being scattered to the four nations. There's a couple different wildernesses that they talk about, but I believe the wilderness of the people, we are currently in the wilderness of the people, which is why a lot of our people, I ain't gonna say a lot, but we can see some of our people still being dealt with, right? We ain't gonna be able to get away with some of the stuff we may have been getting away with, although it seems like black people don't get to get away with nothing. We're going to see the holy reverence of Yahuwah fall back upon, not just upon his people, but upon this earth as they realize who we are, right? And as our people realize who they are. So I said all that to say that pay attention to what's going on. And sometimes the news, they'll use propaganda, they'll kind of perpetrate a lie. So you have to kind of balance out what you see being shown on the news. And you can go to YouTube videos of people who are actually living in some of these places that's giving you real live, up close and personal accounts of what's really going on in the places where they live, right? Yes, baby girl.
Why not getting them socks and shoes on?
Okay, because they probably just want to lay down for a little bit.
No.
Okay, I'll tell them to get up in a second. I'm almost done. Give me a couple more minutes. I'll be done. Okay, I know too. Okay, hold on. Okay, so just kind of keep your eyes out on that. But real quick, Passover is coming up. Like I said, once I spot the new moon and we write it down, I can give you the exact day. I already had some dates set for this year, but I know I need to check them. It's possible that it could fall on the same day, but I need to be absolutely sure. But I'll post it in here once we know. After this weekend, Monday, I'll say no later than Tuesday. I should be able to tell you the exact date. And then we can prepare for Passover. So just be mindful. Unleavened bread starts the day after Passover, and we have to start getting the yeast products out of our home, right? So remember, these are memorial feasts that we are to practice. Is to keep what Yahuwah has done at the forefront of our memory so we don't forget, right? And a lot of people say, oh, we ain't got to do all that. You're doing too much. I'm like, yeah, but Yahuwah said that there would be memorial feasts for us to remember so that we don't forget. And I find that it's really kind of cool to keep it with your family, right? Especially like the Feast of Unleavened Bread, where you got to go through and pull all the yeast products out of your home, so it makes some teaching moments. And it's kind of like when we go through, even checking the seasons, checking every little thing, checking the ingredients and stuff, that's kind of likened to us doing a once over or twice over or thrice over of our lives. Checking inside of us, considering our ways. We got something stored inside our heart somewhere deep down in the crevices. We got to look deep. We need a flashlight. Let's see. We need to take care of that right there. That needs to go. Come on, let's go. And so that's, but practicing, you realize, I didn't realize that until we actually started keeping it, that this is what Yahuwah wants us to do, to keep us mindful and in remembrance of all that he's done and how he searches us, right? It teaches us spiritual principles when we actually keep those commands and we keep those feasts. But a lot of people, they want to argue with you about it. You ain't got to keep it. That was for them. It's not for them. I'm like, okay, I used to believe that too, till I actually started keeping them, right? And it's not hard to keep. It's really not. Like, without fail, we can do it, y'all. We can. He said, this is to be done wherever you're at, right? And you'll realize as you start keeping them, all of these things can be kept even while we're in captivity, y'all. I'm telling you, there's an extra special blessing and a little bit of extra wisdom that I found that is poured out upon you and your household when you actually begin to keep those things. I can't quite explain it. All I know is that it's happened, right? So I'm like, okay, we want to keep on doing this. Hey, you know what today is? Set it down. Keep yourself in your own place, right? All right, so, all right, y'all, that's enough. So tomorrow we will not be here. It's the Sabbath. Make sure you rest. I know some people may be on jobs and they're just starting to keep Yahuwah's feast days or whatever, and they want, if they had the opportunity, here's what I found. Those who are in jobs that work for people that's just now coming to the understanding and realization, oh, we probably should still be keeping these feasts, and they want to keep the Sabbath, but they have to actually work on the Sabbath. What I found is that if your intentions are truly to keep the Sabbath and not just to, get a day off of work, extra day, whatever. You would say 6 days for work, you need to rest one day anyway. But if your intention, your heart desire is to truly keep it, and if you had the opportunity, you would keep it, I realized that Yahuwah begins to show those people favor. Even my sister, now she has the opportunity to create her own schedule. But when we first started learning about it, but she has to make her schedule like a month in advance. So for like a whole month, she was still having to work on the Sabbath. But we had found out, and she even prayed. So she tried everything. She said, Father, I see if I can get somebody to switch. Very good. I see if I can get somebody to kind of switch schedules with me so I can be off on this day. But on a few times that she couldn't actually get it off because she had already set her schedule and it was in stone and nobody was available to switch with her. On those days, I think she might still be here. She off. I think she said she's off the rest of the week. But she can attest to you, and not just her, but a few other people, even on those days. And she's an RN and she works in the hospital, right? But at this time when we started, she wasn't quite at the position that she's in now. She would find out that on those days, those Sabbath days, her entire floor would be quiet. So like, because her floor is normally up, people coming in left and right, trauma cases and all the different things. But on the Sabbath days, it was quiet. And they had assigned her to a place where she literally just sat with a patient all day, right? So she still literally, although she had to physically show up for her job to work, Yahuwah allowed her to experience the Sabbath quietness and peace by making not just her, what she did that day, quiet. He made their entire floor quiet in the hospital. And I'm just like, boy, don't get no better than this. I'm like, so y'all gotta put some of these things in practice. And it's like, it just blows your mind. And the more it happens, it's your faith just grows by leaps and bounds.
I did my lemonade.
All right, very good. So she over here cutting up lemons, making lemonade. Okay. Hey, Trina, okay. I forgot to let you know I'm back at 16 hours fasting and 1 meal a day. I feel good. I'm telling you. Hey. I'm telling y'all get these bodies back in order. It's like, man, we'll see some supernatural. I feel sometimes I be feeling like, and I be imagining too, because I love Marvel movies, right? Superhero movies. And plus I got a whole bunch of boys in the house and they think they're superheroes anyway. Plus Bella. So sometimes we been here cutting up, acting the fool like we real superheroes and stuff.
Not do apple slices. They must taste good.
All right.
I just cannot get it. Dad is saying no.
Yeah, Dad said no. I'm going to have to cut those for you because y'all broke my apple slicer.
You did it?
Yeah, I know. Your brothers did, though. Okay. All right, y'all. So I think gotta go to work. Okay, see you Saturday. All right, y'all. Yep.